Here we go.
I want to speak to you tonight about the need for us to lower the temperature in our politics. And to remember, while we may disagree, we are not enemies. We're neighbors, we're friends, co-workers, citizens, and most importantly, we're our fellow Americans. We must stand together. Yesterday's shooting at Donald Trump's rally in Pennsylvania calls on all of us to take a step back, take stock of where we are, how we go forward from here. Thankfully, former Trump is not seriously injured. I spoke with him last night. I'm grateful. He's doing well, and Jill and I keep him and his family in our prayers. We also extend our deepest condolences to the family of the victims who was killed. Corey was a husband, a father, a volunteer firefighter, a hero, sheltering his family from those bullets. We should all hold his family and all those injured in our prayers. Earlier today, I spoke about an ongoing investigation. We do not know the motive of the shooter yet. We don't know his opinions or affiliations. We don't know whether he had help or support or if he communicated with anyone else. Law enforcement professionals, as I speak, are investigating those questions. Tonight, I want to speak to what we do know. A former president was shot, an American citizen killed, while simply exercising his freedom to support the candidate of his choosing. We cannot, we must not go down this road in America. We've traveled before throughout our history. Violence has never been the answer. Whether it's with members of Congress of both parties being targeted and shot, or a violent mob attacking the Capitol on January 6th, or a brutal attack on the spouse of former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, or information and intimidation on election officials, or the kidnapping plot against the sitting governor, or an attempted assassination on Donald Trump. There is no place in America for this kind of violence, or for any violence ever. Period. No exceptions. We can't allow this violence to be normalized. You know, the political record in this country has gotten very heated. It's time to cool it down. We all have a responsibility to do that. Yes, we have deeply felt strong disagreements. The stakes in this election are enormously high. I've said it many times that the choice in this election we make in this election is going to shape the future of America and the world for decades to come. I believe that with all my soul. I know that millions of my fellow Americans believe it as well. And some have a different view as to the direction our country should take. Disagreement is inevitable in American democracy. It's part of human nature. But politics must never be a literal battlefield, or God forbid, a killing field. I believe politics ought to be an arena for peaceful debate, to pursue justice, to make decisions guided by the Declaration of Independence and our Constitution. We stand for an America, not of extremism and fury, but of decency and grace. All of us now face the time of testing as the election approaches. And the higher the stakes, the more fervent the passions become. This places an added burden on each of us to ensure that no matter how strong our convictions, we must never descend into violence. The Republican convention will start tomorrow. I have no doubt they'll criticize my record and offer their own vision for this country. I'll be traveling this week making the case for our record and the vision, my vision of the country, our vision. I'll continue to speak out strongly for our democracy, stand up for our Constitution and the rule of law, to call for action at the ballot box, no violence on our streets. That's how democracy should work. We debate and disagree. We compare and contrast the character of the candidates, the records, the issues, the agenda, the vision for America. But in America, we resolve our differences at the battle box. You know, that's how we do it, at the battle box, not with bullets. The power to change America should always rest in the hands of the people, not in the hands of a would-be assassin. You know, the path forward through competing visions of the campaign should always be resolved peacefully, not through acts of violence. You know, we're blessed to live in the greatest country on earth, and I believe that with every soul, every power of my being. So tonight, I'm asking every American to recommit, to think about it. What's made America so special? Here in America, everyone must be treated with dignity and respect, and hate must have no safe harbor. Here in America, we need to get out of our silos, where we only listen to those with whom we agree, where misinformation is rampant, where foreign actors fan the flames of our division to shape the outcomes consistent with their interests, not ours. Let's remember, here in America, while unity is the most elusive of goals right now, nothing is more important for us now than standing together. We can do this. You know, from the beginning, our founders understood the power of passion. So they created a democracy that gave reason and balance a chance to prevail over brute force. That's the American we must be. An American democracy where arguments are made in good faith. An American democracy where the rule of law is respected. An American democracy where decency, dignity, fair play aren't just quaint notions, but living, breathing realities. We owe that to those who come before us, to those who gave their lives for this country. We owe that to ourselves. We owe it to our children and our grandchildren. Look, let's never lose sight of who we are. Let's remember we are the United States of America. There is nothing beyond our capacity when we do it together. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops.
President Biden speaking from the Oval Office, talking for about 6 or so minutes. CNN's Dana Bash is joining the panel along with John King, Ashley Ellison, David Urban, and David Axelrod. Dana, what do you make of the president's speech?
Well, he did what he needed to do to try to calm the very real anger, fear, tension that has been spreading throughout the country since what we saw yesterday, just 26 hours ago. I did think it was interesting that he didn't back down from the call for continuing with the core of democracy. I know we've seen a lot of Republicans blame him, blame Democrats for warning about the end of democracy. He certainly didn't say that. But he talked about the tenets of democracy and the need to continue the discussion and the real debate using words and not anything else, and focusing on the end goal, which is November and the ballot box.
Ashley, what do you think?
I thought it was a good speech. I thought it was important. I agree that I'm glad he did not back down about what is at stake in this election and democracy. That's why we have elections, so that people can give a point of view. He also was able to draw a story about the varying attacks that many people, whether they were Republicans or Democrats, have faced with political violence, whether it be the attack on Donald Trump today or around Paul Pelosi, or when students have been killed at schools or in synagogues and they have right-wing manifesto language and the reason why they're doing it. We must call it all out. And I think what I was saying before he gave this speech is we're talking a lot about unity and standing together as Americans. Part of what that looks like is giving your perspective, but then truly listening to what somebody else is saying. And instead of having a comeback as soon as someone says it, maybe ask a question and say, why do you think that? That's how you have a conversation. That was what I taught my students to do when they were in school, when they were getting in arguments with one another. If you just bicker back and forth, we're wasting time and putting lives at risk. And so now is the moment for us to rise up as adults to show the coming generation how we can actually move forward, but we have to do it with honesty and truth too.
David, what'd you make?
Look, I think the president did a good job. He looked presidential, gave a good message, reminded Americans that part of the people who stoke the dissent in our country are foreigners who want to see this exact thing taking place.
Literally people across the ocean, Iran, China,
Xi,
Russia.
Right,
Yeah.
the IRGC, the Russians. These are the folks that want to see our country implode and fail. They relish the fact that Americans are fighting Americans. This is what they live for. And so for us to join together in moments like this, for the speaker, for Governor Shapiro today, for those people to rise up and say, this is a time for unity. We all need to look at ourselves and do a better job, be a better America. This is a chance to be a better America. And I applaud the president for saying it, taking that and saying it. And hopefully everyone goes back to their camps and really tries. I mean, hopefully on this stage this week, we're going to see a message of unity and a little, of looking for our best angels in America.
It was interesting because President Biden, David Axelrod, basically said, the Republicans are going to attack my record. I'm paraphrasing here, but and that's fine. That's what Republican conventions are for. And I'm going to go out and give my vision of the country, almost like a, not that anybody was waiting for it, but almost a permission structure. Yes, let's have the democracy.
Yeah, you're right. They don't need that. I think they're
gonna do it anyway.
More than willing to comply. But listen, I think there are a couple of things here that we, just from a standpoint of what he was trying to accomplish. I think, first of all, he was trying to fill the role that presidents should in a moment like this. This country is in distress, and he wanted to speak to that distress. And I think he did a good job of that tonight. The second thing he wants to do is subtly paint a contrast, because one of the questions on people's minds tonight is who can calm this country, who can stabilize it, who can bring us back from this abyss that we reached the other day. And I think that with his words, he is trying to say, this is what I'm committed to, this is who I am. And in some ways, he's inoculating against what we might see in the next 4 days.